Hey everybody, this is Jason over at Paydirt DFS. We are back once again for another Tuesday main slate breakdown. We're going to go over everything in the models today. We're going to go over really just some places you should probably look to attack, places you should avoid, and then in turn, I'm going to give my 2 cents of really where I think this slate can be won or lost. So as always, we're going to go take a look at the range of outcomes here. And actually, what I'm going to do is I want to start with pitching today, and reason being, this is a really, really big slate. We have a lot of different options we can get to. We have some really, really high price pitchers today that are getting some ownership. I think some of it may be warranted. I think some of it may not be. So let's take a dive in and just really see for ourselves, what we're dealing with. So first and foremost, when I'm looking at this, I want to sort by median projection. You're going to see Tarek Skubal is just far and wide ahead of everybody else today. It's not even close. But also, he is also, coming with that price tag, right? 11.5. That's, I'm not going to lie, on a slate this big, I think that's a really crazy price tag. I don't care if, like Cy Young himself was going to take the mound today on a slate where you have such great hitting environments that you can play. I just don't know if I really want to spend on Tarek Skubal. Look, could he go for like a 40 burger and just absolutely bury you? Absolutely. But the other thing you have to think about is what else do you need to go right with that, with that monster game from Skubal in order for you to take down a contest. And also, a lot of people are going to be locked into some similar build paths. So first off the bat, you'll see Skubal highest owned, followed by Will Warren down here. Dylan Cease is getting some ownership, but far and wide, he is the best projected player today from a median projection standpoint. Then it's Dylan Cease, who, 8,800. I do feel like that's a little cheap for him. I do not love this matchup today against Toronto. They just don't strike out enough, for my liking that I really want to go and attack them. But he is definitely way too cheap for who he is. So I totally think he's viable. When he is on, he has upside of a 10K pitcher. So I think it's somebody you can consider as a, an ownership discount slightly. Then after that, it's Will Warren. Will Warren's going to be the chalk pay down today, and for good reason. The guy's been very, very good. And to kind of drill that point home even more, just going to look at our research sheets here really quick. So these are our research sheets, and here we're going to take a look at his true average and, what each pitcher, this is essentially a marking of how many hits that they should be giving up from each side of the plate, what that batting average looks like. And, you see down here in the context of the slate, he has some of the lowest true average numbers on the slate. 0.230 to righties and 200 to lefties, like very, very good for the context of the slate. When we even go look at it, take a step further, I'm going to sort by true average here. We'll find him down here. Where is he? Will Warren. So Will Warren in the current sample, 29% K rate, less than a 10% walk rate. You like to see that. True average 0.10 from 0.210, combined from both sides. Slugging, giving up a hair over league average. Expected batting are supposed to come up a little bit. Hasn't been giving up much power, and he shouldn't be giving up much more power. This edition of the Texas Rangers, in my opinion, is just really not great. They are a team that I think you can attack more often than not, especially because there's no Corey Seager in the lineup. So when I see that, I think it's a good place to really go and attack. And let's go take a look at really quickly too. Over the last 2 weeks, I have this on Fangraphs. We're sorting by WRC plus, and we're going to see how Texas has been. So Texas over the last 2 weeks has been pretty good. They've been, upper middle of the pack here. They're not striking out a ton. They have a pretty good ISO number. So, recent sample, they've been pretty decent. But I also want to go look and see really who they've played. So over their last few games, the last few series, they played Houston, and Wyatt Langford, definitely got off the schneid there. They played the Colorado Rockies also in a series. They had a series at Detroit, who Detroit's been giving up some fantasy production over the last few games, and also at Boston in a very good hitters environment. So Boston's bullpen's okay too. I might take back a little bit about them being a sieve, but I do think Will Warren is still very, very viable. He has been so good this year, and I think he's going to realize some more success. And at 7,500, I just think he's a little too cheap. He went down 500 from, he went down $500 from his last start. He's coming off two really good starts in a row, both on the road at Sutter Health against the Athletics and at the Mariners too at Seattle. And so he has, his last three games, 8 Ks, 7 Ks, 9 Ks. I do like to see that. Um, I want to go look at Texas as a team just in our hitting research sheets first. So we have Texas here. So Texas, with the current lineup, they have the sample 21% strikeout rate. Don't love to see that. Expected batting average 0.26. So, okay, not, it's decent for a team, together. Expected slugging 450. I don't like to see that as a Will Warren backer. And also X home run for plate appearance of 0.04, second highest on the slate here. So all in all, I do think Will Warren is a good play tonight, but I do think you can go attack him from both sides. So I do not think that I think you play both sides of it if you really you're not sold on Warren. I personally, in my 5 lineups, are going to have at least probably 2 Will Warrens today, just because of the bats that I want to get to. I think you can win this slate more with bats. You also have Logan Henderson. I know at Paydirt, we're high on him. I'm a little worried about his pitch count, and also the fact that the Orioles are going to be throwing a lot of lefties at him. His changeup is fucking filthy, but regardless, I think it's still buyer beware. Especially at 9,500. Yamamoto, tough matchup against Arizona. Don't know how much I want to deal with that. Chris Bassett, against San Diego, they don't really strike out at all. He's not a big K guy for his career. He's been better this year, but he's not really a big strikeout guy. So I think I want to avoid that. So in times like this, when there's not many, I don't know, like there's some pitchers I like, but there's not a ton, and like I'm having a hard time. I want to start by 2X, and I want to see what the most valuable pitchers on the slate are at their current salaries. So Will Warren, best value on the slate, followed by Hayden Birdsong. So Hayden Birdsong, for those of you who don't remember, was part of this Giants rotation last year, and he honestly was a mixed bag of results. I kind of liked Birdsong. I think he had some good outings. I think he's actually a good pitcher. His baseline stuff looks pretty good. And also, this offense is very anemic. Granted, they're very anemic. They do not strike out a ton. So that is the one thing you have to remember is temper your expectations. If you're playing Hayden Birdsong today, and he is a guy who definitely has some strikeout upside in his arsenal, his pitch whiff, he gets a lot of whiffs. He's got some stuff for sure. I think you're more so playing for this guy to not get blown up. I think if he has a game today where it's like 1 earned run, 5 Ks, and he goes 5 or 6 innings, I think you're pretty ecstatic at that salary. And I think that's what you should be expecting. But I do think that combos are in play today. If you want to play Will Warren, Birdsong to go get Coors, to go get the Dodgers, I think you can do that. What's crazy, though, is that by our projection here, Tarek Skubal, at even his $11,500 salary, he's the 3rd best value at that price tag on the slate today. That's crazy. That's wild. I mean, we talk about it all the time in the Discord. Double pay up pitcher has not worked out once this year. It feels like it just did yesterday for the first time. If you ran Bubich and Giolito, or you ran, Bubich and Gray, you had a really good night. So if you want to play Skubal, I'm fine. It's just you got to find a cheap offense to really pair him with. Then after Skubal, it's Dylan Cease. You have Brandon Walter. You don't want to play Brandon Walter, in this park against Tampa Bay. We haven't projected well, but it's really because Tampa Bay just isn't that great against left-handed pitching. They've been better over the most recent sample. But looking at this guy from the minors, I don't really love him. So I think you can attack them today. Adrian Hauser against Seattle. Man, if that weather was better in Chicago, I would be all over Seattle. He is a very, high ground ball pitcher, if I remember correctly, but it is going to be some gross weather. I just don't think you need to go there today almost with anything in that game. And then you have Senzatella, who clearly, if you played Senzatella today, you probably shouldn't be playing DFS if you really want to roster him. You should just go buy a lotto ticket, play the Powerball, play your favorite numbers, do whatever you want to do. Do not play Antonio Senzatella. And then there's Chris Bassett. There's Patrick Corbin, who Patrick Corbin looks like a slight value, not really. And then Logan Henderson. So for me today, my pitching pool is going to be very, very simple. And when we go look at our sims, I'm probably going to see something very similar to what I'm saying here. For me, it's going to be a combination of Will Warren, Birdsong. I'm going to put Scooble in just because we have him as such a high value, but I really don't like targeting St. Louis. They do not strike out a lot. I'll keep Dylan Cease in there. And honestly, that's probably it for my 5 lineups. I'm going to keep it very, very lean today. And I want to go try and, capture some upside with these bats. There is one thing I wanted to look at just really quickly and show everybody. If you are not on Fangraphs, this is like the best free tool you could have besides Baseball Savant, to look at, research, see how teams have been doing, maybe how good they're going to be. So here I have every team in the league over the last 2 weeks sorted by their numbers against left-handed pitching. When you look at their WRC score plus, you can see some teams here. Like obviously the Dodgers have been pretty elite. So the Yankees, Corbin, I think his luck might run out tonight, especially in that shoebox of a baseball stadium that they call Yankee Stadium. I seriously think my grandmother could probably hit one out to left field there. To right field, definitely. My little cousin probably can do that, and she's 7. So, yeah, it's a shoebox ballpark. When you get to here, you look at St. Louis. So now St. Louis, middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack, not a great WRC plus score. You want to see this probably closer to 100, if not more. Striking out a little bit more than they've been recently. ISO 160 as a team, not terrible. That park that they're playing in today is very, very good for pitching. When I sort by K rate, obviously you see Cincinnati here. It's been terrible. Relatively speaking, St. Louis, one of the lower strikeout teams of the night against left-handed pitching. So that's my one worry with Scooble. Can he overcome every single matchup that he has? 1,000% yes. But I just want to be careful. But that's definitely my pool. Scooble, Cease, Will Warren, and what the fuck's the other guy's name? And Hayden Birdsong. That's how I'm going to be going in my 5 lineups. If you want an off-the-wall pitcher to maybe put in your MME pools that maybe isn't going to get a lot of ownership, I think you could do worse than Michael Lorenzen. He's a little bit expensive, but he's in a really, really good pitcher's environment today. And I also don't hate taking a stab if you really, really need to do it. It's going to sound gross to me. And I don't play this if you're playing small field. This is just like my large field loins talking here. 2 pitchers. And one of them, I'm going to talk about why I want to attack them too. But one of those pitchers is actually, okay, this I want to puke by saying this. Eric Fetty. I don't think Eric Fetty's a great pitcher. He just doesn't give up a ton of power, and he's in a good pitcher's park. Detroit has been fucking lethal against right-handed pitching. But if you really, really, really want to punt and you feel like you have to do it, sure. I don't advise it, but feel free. And the other one is Zach Littell against Houston. Me and for the guys in the Discord that know Lizard, AKA Lizard owning mother effer, that guy, really sharp dude, breaks down a ton of hitting statistics all the time and hitting numbers. And which is pretty crazy is that Houston is in a decent spot tonight from both sides of the plate. Granted, they don't have a ton of lefties, but like Caratini on their team, had definitely has some home run prowess. He's a guy who's been getting extremely, extremely lucky. But I think in this matchup, you can probably see him. He's going to have either like a 7K game with like 1 hit, 1 earned run, or I think Houston just like kicks the living shit out of him. And I really lean in the camp more of Houston. I think Houston is primed to do really well in this matchup. And I know that they let people down all the time, but they are an offense that if you want to go to, you can. And here's why. If I'm going to build with Scooble, and let's say I'm going to go Will Warren, if I want to go play Houston, let me just isolate Houston batters for a second. Their most expensive batter you can roster is $4,000 Pena or $4,000 Altuve. They are very, very cheap. So if you wanted to go make a build where it's like Christian Walker, Caratini, Paredes, Pena, you want to skip over Altuve, be my guest. Jake Myers, guy who buoyed a lot of my lineups yesterday. You're left with 44, almost 4,500 per roster spot. So this is why I really like Houston today. They're cheap. They get the park upgrade. And Littell has been, when I'm telling you that dude has been lucky, he's been lucky. And let me go look at that quick before we go look at some bats. So when I'm looking at the pitchers here, I want to take a look at the current slate overview. When we look at true average, Zach Littell has the worst true average on this slate. He's got the worst slugging numbers on the slate. One of them actually, besides this Casey Lawrence guy. Home runs, he's given up 6 in the sample. He should have been giving up 2.5 more in that sample. When I go isolate this now, and when I want to look at him, I'll look at him versus lefties quick, right? That he's only got one he's really got to worry about here. But Zach Littell, true average, very high to the left side of the plate, dog shit. To the right side of the plate, where is he? There is Zach Littell. Not striking out anybody, not walking, but it's fine. True average, very high. Expected slugging, highest on the slate. Expected home runs, 9. Expected batting average, 0.31. That to me just screams like, yeah, you're getting lucky. Houston hasn't been great, so let's maybe go take a look at them really quick in the research sheets and just see how they match up today. So if you see these doubled up, it's because we have FanDuel pricing here. So here, Houston, batting average 0.26. That's okay. Expected slugging as a team 0.39. Not great. Low expected home run per plate appearance numbers. So basically, either Houston's going to win everybody all the money tonight, or they are going to be a gigantic wet noodle. So think of that any which way you will. But that's a real reason why I think Littell, you could play him and hope he still gets lucky, because this lineup has not been great. Houston, they've been not good at all this season, and I know they're really missing Jordan. Or you can go attack him. I lean in more the attack that camp. I just think this offense doesn't strike out a ton. If they're putting bat on ball, it's only a matter of time. And also, Chas McCormick almost hit one out to left field yesterday. It got robbed by Morel. If that guy's about to pimp a home run on you, man, you're in trouble. So I like the park. I like the great environment there. I'm going to have me some Houston. They're definitely going to make probably 1 or 2 of my 5 lineups today, either as a mini or a full stack. So looking at offenses now here. So the best offense on the slate, obviously is the Dodgers from a talent standpoint. From a game environment standpoint, I just don't know how you ignore Philadelphia. Like, I see the ownership here. That's very high, obviously, very negative LevX, almost a 21% chance to score 8+ runs or more. They're very expensive. I think you got to play some Philly today. If you are playing small field, you're playing, a handful of lineups, you have to play some sort of Philly today. I don't care if you full stack it, if you mini it, you have to get a touch of it. And the reason why is because Antonio Senzatella might be the worst starting pitcher in baseball. He is horrendous. The Colorado Rockies have the worst bullpen in baseball. They are horrendous. They are a dumpster diving organization. They honestly should be relegated. If we had a relegation system, they would have been relegated in, 2015, and we wouldn't have to, deal with their fuckery. But now here we are. So I personally really think you need to get some Philly today. I'm personally going to keep Philly mostly to minis. They're probably going to make 3 out of my 5 lineups from a mini standpoint. I like the idea of taking the really big power bats. So if we want to go look at the power bats here in our research sheets, we can go isolate them. I'm going to go look at active baselines. I'm going to go versus right-handed pitching, because obviously Senzatella is a righty. And wait for this to load specific teams. And we're going to go to Philly here really quick. And we're going to sort by expected slugging. Again, if you see double names, it's because they have different pricing over on FanDuel. Sometimes, they do. Sometimes our sheets too, when they're bringing data over, it does double. But, Kyle Schwarber here, crazy expected slugging. Bryce Harper, crazy expected slugging. Castellanos above average, JT Realmuto above average, Kepler above average. When I go and sort by expected home runs in this sample versus right-handed pitching, Schwarber, Harper, Realmuto, you have guys with some really, really encouraging numbers here. When I go look at them just in general on this slate, and let's go take a look at them, current slate overview. This is just the numbers that they're having in this matchup. Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Max Kepler, almost a 10%, home run per plate appearance here for Kyle Schwarber. You can play Kyle Schwarber, play him with confidence. JT Realmuto also looks really good. Max Kepler, they are very expensive. So that's why I think I would want to go that way. You have Bryson Stott leading off at 5,400. He is a stolen base threat. And the other thing you want to look at here, this column here, the event for plate appearance, this takes into account, hits, home runs, batted ball events, stolen bases, just, basically how well in a spot they are to score fantasy points, per their plate appearance. And as you can tell, this is pretty good. The one thing I want to go look at with Antonio Senzatella today is if you can steal bases on him. So I'm going to go to another free resource you can look up. It's called Swish Analytics. This is a tool that I use every single day. I go and look and see who has stolen base upside. And you'll see here that Antonio Senzatella is like pretty middling, like meaning you could steal on him if it's right, but he's also probably good at holding runners. As opposed to Adrian Hauser, you could run on him all over. Falter's not on the slate. Walter, you don't want to run on. Casey Legomina from Seattle, you want to run on. You could run on Bassett. So you guys get the gist of it. When I look at Senzatella here, Bryson Stott, big stolen base threat. Johan Rojas, big stolen base threat. Trey Turner. Johan Rojas is not in the lineup. Actually, they don't have a ton of guys with speed in the lineup today either. I mean, Brandon Marsh and Turner. Yeah, Stott. So, like, if I'm building a mini today, I'm probably going to go with a combination of Kyle Schwarber or Bryce Harper. And then I want to grab some other guys who could do a lot of things on the base paths and maybe get you some other points outside of hitting home runs. So that's how I would attack today, but I definitely wanted to highlight that you should not be fading Philly on the slate in small field if you're playing a handful. If you're playing 20 max, like you don't even need to make them like a core anchor team, but I think it's warranted. It's good chalk. They're a really high-powered offense against a really bad pitcher in the best hitting environment in baseball. Looking at some other offenses that grade out well, the Athletics. This is one that I personally am very, very high on today. The Athletics, granted, they haven't been as great as of lately. They also haven't played Kyle Hendricks. So Kyle Hendricks to me is just he's just such a ticking time bomb. He really is. It's a matter of time before he just gets absolutely shelled. And he has had some starts this year where he's given up, multiple earned runs. I think he had like a 7 earned run game this year, but he's only had one game with multiple home runs given up, if that's correct. He's only given up 1 home run in every game he's played. I think that changes tonight. This is a very, very bad environment. Also, if you get past him, this is our bullpen sheets here. The Angels have the worst bullpen in baseball. That is horrendous. Oh my God. Ex-Woba too, 360. Their hit ratio is really, really terrible. I'm all about attacking them today. I agree with the sheets here. I really like the Athletics. And the other thing I like about the Athletics is that they're not overly expensive. So if you wanted to play, Brett Rooker is going to cost you a pretty penny, but everybody else is like, low. I mean, even Nick Kurtz is sub 3, but like low 3s to like low 4s. I'm a very, very big proponent of the Athletics today. I'm definitely going to have them probably as a main. I just think it's too good of a spot. Followed by them is the Yankees against Corbin. I like the Yankees. I just think that they're better as a mini. I think there's a real chance that Corbin gets absolutely crushed today. That Texas bullpen is not bad, though. They haven't been bad either. I mean, in the most recent sample, they've been bad, and based upon who we could play on the slate today. But overall, I just think that they're so expensive. You need them to really explode for them to be worth your while. So if you want to go a mini of Aaron Judge with you want to go Paul Goldschmidt, you want to go Austin Wells, DJ LeMahieu, 2,700 DJ LeMahieu was batting .333 to start the year and has a homer in his first 4 games. You could do that. I don't think he's a great baseball player, but regardless of that, that's kind of where I think I would go, minis for the Yankees. Arizona. I do like Arizona quite a bit. This is not going to be popular in small field today. I think if you choose one stack in small field that doesn't disrupt a lot of your build path, if you're going to build with Colorado, if you're going to build with the Dodgers, if you're going to build with, one of these other really, really expensive teams, I think Arizona is your pivot, and here's why. Yamamoto, I think he's a very good pitcher. He's not a guy that I really want to, target often, but the Dodgers have just been kind of a sieve for fantasy points. And it's all about what happens once you get past Yamamoto. And if you could do it early, these teams just played each other. They just crushed him the first time they played. So hopefully he makes some adjustments. But this is my favorite tool on the entire site. this is one thing I say this every single week. If there's one thing that you're pressed for time and you're going to live and die by, and you want to figure out which offenses you should play, it's really this. If you have nothing else to look at, this is where you should go. So I have this sorted by matchup average trend. This is the average trend of the matchup that offense is in. The offense is on the left-hand side, and the pitching staff and bullpen is on the right-hand side here. That is a real deterrent of how determining factor of like how much fantasy production they really should be giving up. So obviously the Dodgers look like they're in a great spot. They're in a good spot. Arizona's been giving up a ton of fantasy points. The Dodgers have the highest trending score on the slate, 7.33. That's awesome. Philly, the second best one. This is why you should not be fading Philly. They're also trending decently well, in terms of the slate. Yeah, they're a top 5 team on the slate in terms of trending score. When I go look at the matchup average trends again, Arizona right down here. So I really, really like this spot for Arizona. They're trending up. They're in a really good park, for hitting. It's a little bit warmer there. I do think after seeing them start to warm up a little bit, I think this is going to be a really, really good spot. If you're eating chalk pitching and you don't want to play and you want to pivot off of cores, I think that's your pivot stack right there. I think the Dodgers are also a great pivot stack. Don't get me wrong. Ryan Nelson is, definitely not anybody to write home about, but I like that they get the extra at bat. I do like that they are a little bit cheaper too. So if you want to maybe pair a little bit more of a competitive 3-man, 2-1 stack with them, you can. Like it's Corbin Carroll, Marte, and then everybody else is mid-4s or below. Gabriel Moreno has been absolutely raking, and he's 3,300 at the catcher spot. I like Arizona quite a bit today. I have a pretty strong feeling about them. And going back to the rest of the offenses, here the Angels, love the Angels again. They're just way too cheap for the power that they have. And the Angels are a type of team you never want to play when they're chalky, but when they are unowned, you want to try and get a lot of them if the pitcher they're playing is really not good. And here's why. So going back to Fangraphs, over the last 2 weeks, the Angels, top 6 team in baseball against right-handed pitching. They're striking out a ton too, right? So if you want to take that risk and, hopefully you fan most batters, that's fine. ISO 213 as a team. That's their ISO. That's the third best in baseball. Slugging, top 6 in baseball. Batted balls in play. That's kind of where they fall off a little bit, but upper middle of the pack. So over the last 2 weeks, the Angels have been very, very good. Zach Neto's insane. Taylor Ward is, I mean, if you're a game log watcher, box score watcher, he's your favorite player. He's the, he's the hottest guy in the world to you. That's the guy you want to play. And I do like the rest of their lineup that they're probably going to put out there. Seanwell's been very good too. O'Hoppe has been a little bit hit or miss, but when he makes contact, it goes far. And I also I like how the Angels have cheap pieces that have a lot of upside. You look at a guy like Joe Adell, you look at a guy like Kyron Paris, if he's in the lineup, if he's not, then okay. But they have cheap guys like Jorge Soler is 3,400. Jorge Soler. They have guys that are just way too cheap for the power that they provide. So I definitely want to have some of them today. And then look at that, Houston. I have a strong feeling about Houston today too. I do like them. Going and looking at the most valuable offenses at their current salaries. That's what the run per dollar column is. That's a determining factor of how valuable they are at their salary. Houston, LA, the Athletics, the White Sox. I don't think you want to play that game because of weather. Baltimore, if you want to take a chance against Henderson, go for it. And the Dodgers, right? So if you're really going to pay up today, the sheets say you should be paying up for the Dodgers, really. When I go sort by leverage, this just shows how much leverage this offense is going to give your lineup. The worst leverage teams today are Seattle, Colorado, and Philly. So this means that at their ownership, the leverage that they are. So I still really like Philly today. I just wouldn't necessarily go play a 5-man. But here's a way you can really break that down. So this is our hitter projections tab. So here what I do is I sort by team, and then you can look at, when we scroll down to Philly, in this column right here, you can take a look and see which ownership, right? So if I'm building Philly today, it's Trey Turner. Everyone else is a little north of 10% besides Brandon Marsh. If I'm playing Bryson Stott today, I'm probably not playing him with Alec Boehm and Castellanos. Like, that's just an example of how I would really attack that. It doesn't mean avoid Philly. It just means that at their ownership, they're not going to do really great for your lineup. You're going to need to build in leverage elsewhere. Then it's Kansas City, who's getting Hayden Bird song. I'm a Bird fan today. I am a Bird man. I will be singing Bird tunes all night long if he shows. So I like that a lot. You do have Milwaukee against Keegan Aiken, and he's the opener. And then they're going to be bringing in this guy. What's his name? Chase something. Chase McDermott, and he spells it Chyce. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not involved in that, but Milwaukee is going to be low owned today. I actually don't mind them just because that bullpen is terrible. And then you get to some more middling teams, like you have Tampa Bay here. I actually like Tampa Bay, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute. But then, yeah, you have St. Louis down here. So our sheets are telling you that even though St. Louis isn't projected to score a lot of runs, if you play them even at 12% ownership, they are negative leverage. That's how good of a play we think Tarek Skubal is. When I start by the highest leverage, look at that. Arizona. Arizona is the highest leverage stack you can get today. I'm a very big fan of Arizona today. Then it's followed by the Dodgers. You have Texas against Will Warren, and they have been showing a little bit more power. So if you want to take that, what it's worth, you can. And yeah, then there's Baltimore against Henderson, the Yankees against Corbin, and yeah, you have Detroit against Fedde. So in my opinion today, my top offenses that I want to target, love the Dodgers, obviously. I want to target Philly minis. I like the Athletics. I like Yankees minis, like Arizona, like the Angels. I like Houston. I want to talk about Tampa Bay for a second because Tampa Bay, every single slate is always chalky, but it's for good reason. They are so cheap today. It's insane. They're going up against the guy who was making his major league debut and Brandon Walter. He is not very good at all, just in my, estimation of things. But when I go look at their lineup today, I can build a nice mini with them. Danny Jansen, the lefty killer, the god himself, 2,400. Okay. You can build any way you want with this. You can go Danny Jansen, you can go Christopher Morel, and then you can go Caminero. You want to go to Yandy, you can go to Curtis Mead if you think he's going to steal another base tonight. They are just way too cheap. I just wouldn't 5-man them because after this guy gets shelled from Houston, and I do fully think he is going to get shelled, I kind of think they're running into a buzzsaw with that bullpen. So I do like Tampa Bay, but I do like them only as minis. And if I had to throw out some other offenses that I think are worth taking a stab on tonight, I don't mind Colorado. They're a little bit more higher owned than you'd like to see, but Jordan Beck, Hunter Goodman, Bretton Doyle, I like those as minis. Tolia, if you want to play him. Tovar is dirt cheap. Like at shortstop, he just fills a very, very nice need for you there. So I don't mind Colorado. If I had to pick one, really low owned team outside of Arizona that I like today, that I think I might want to roll the dice on if I'm playing a bunch of lineups, I'm probably going to throw Baltimore in there just because I think if you get past Logan Henderson, it could be okay. That hitting environment's decent. But also, as much as I said, I'd like to, if you're going to play Fedde, consider him. You can. I think you could also stack against him. So last thing I want to look at before I get to questions is just our contest simulations. So I'm going to run this on small field very for today because that is the type of contest that I'm going to be playing. So I'm going to let that load. And looking at our contest sims right now, starting pitcher exposure and small field contest, Tariq Skubal shows up in winning lineups 90% of the time. That's crazy. That's insane. So granted, these sims are based on ownership too, so players that are getting ownership are going to get, a little bit more consideration here. But then it's Will Warren and Dylan Cease. They're showing positive edges for you here. Negative edges, Luzardo. So Colorado, if you want to go there. I don't know why Trey Turner's showing up in the pitching one, but I'll talk to James about that. But yeah, you have Yamamoto also here. You have, it's pretty okay. So in small field, you are going to want to play some combination of Skubal, Warren, Cease, and I do really like Hayden Birdsong still. Offenses, Tampa Bay shows up here because they're dirt cheap. You could play them with a combination of Will Warren and Skubal. And when I'm looking at overall exposures here, just this is regardless of position. The lowest edge in the Sims are Luzardo, Trey Turner, Castellanos, Danny Jansen. This should not be surprised because these are chalk. So typically batters, when they're chalk, they are 95% of the time, they are definitely overowned because every hitter has a floor of 0. When I look at the highest edge players, it's Skubal, Birdsong, yep. You can play Lorenzen, Gunnar Hoglund. I mean, I don't know how much I believe that, but we'll see. Maybe I caught this during an update. Try running it one more time. I'm going to reset the data really quick. Sometimes when you catch it in between an update, it can be a little funky. Also, highly recommend Wild Cherry Pepsi. Just throwing it out there. Got diet today. It's delicious. While that's loading, we're going to answer some questions. Yeah, Jay, let's fucking go, man. Tribe, best co-host in the game. Saul, what's your opinion on the Dodgers game? Yeah, I like that game a lot today, both sides of it. I wouldn't play any of the pitchers. I prefer the Arizona side, a little cheaper. They just saw Yamamoto. I think Yamamoto is much better than Ryan Nelson, so be wary there. But I do like that they get the extra at bat. And yeah, team total over I think is good. So let's look here at the Sims. No, looks like it's a little funky. So all in all, Skubal, to recap, Skubal, Birdsong, Warren. You really want to go Lorenzen, you can, but that's a large field play. And Dylan Cease for me, that's where I'm going to be leaning. Team exposures, yep, Tampa Bay, the Dodgers, Houston. Recap, favorite offenses for me, Houston, LA, Arizona, the Athletics. And I do like the Angels and minis from the Yankees, the Phillies, the Rockies, and the Rays. Ryan, no, you're a legend, dude. You've been fucking low key raking, dude. Low key. And Serpientes indeed. All right. What questions does everybody have? Birdsong is shaky. No. So Birdsong I actually like. I don't like that his matchup today is not a good strikeout matchup, but he's in the best pitchers park in baseball next to Seattle. It's hard not to really like him today. I mean, even when I go look at him in the research sheets, and remember, he's been mostly a bullpen arm. Is true average against lefties middling? Yeah, against righties, not great. But let's go take a look and see how he looks in the current slate overview. Birdsong here, K rate of 25%. At his price tag, I love that. Walk rate, all right, 10. You don't love that. Slugging, okay. Giving up a little bit of power, but shouldn't be giving up much more. If he was in a worse park today for pitching and he was playing a offense that was a little bit better than the Royals, I'd be a little less worried. But at his price tag, I do think that inherently you are playing him to get you that 15 to 18 point game at his ceiling. So I think that's something. I think he's fine today, especially in large field. If I was playing 20 lineups, he'd make a bunch of them. Small field, he's going to be making probably 2 of mine minimum. Brand new to MLB, what are some things I should be doing or looking for no matter the slate? So the one thing you can always do in MLB is you got to take into account that hitters themselves inherently all have a floor of 0. If you can look to pivot at your stack, that's 100% what I would do. You don't want to combine 2 chalky pitchers and a chalky stack. You're just asking for problems. Chances are one of them is going to fail. The trick that we need to, what we need to figure out is really what part of that equation we think fails. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you should be more often open to eating chalk pitching because you can get different with your bats. Pitcher projections are the most reliable projection that we have for players in baseball. So if you see a pitcher is 60% owned, but he doesn't have any great pivots around him. He's a great value at his tag. He's projecting well. You probably should just play him. So those are two main things. And if I had to give you a third, play the best hitting environments that you can. Baseball is an outdoor sport. I know there's some teams that play in domes, but it's an outdoor sport. If it's hot, humid, winds blowing out in certain parks, it really, really does matter. So those are the three things that I would say if you've never played MLB, what you should be doing, no matter the slate, are those three things. So, but no, thanks for tuning in, and come check us out also at Paydirt DFS, man. We're great for people that are just getting started. We have a great community. People would love to, help you out. Come jump in with your questions, man. Come grab even a day pass, week pass. Come check us out. All right. So I am going to go finish the rest of my builds, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'll be back again next week. Let's go collect some trophies. And I will say this, if the Astros win me all the money tonight, I will buy a jersey of whoever goes yard for them. So that is my word. I'm going to be so tilted when Littell throws 10 strikeouts and, has one hit. So, but that's the game we play. But everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the Discord. Let's go get some trophies.